Hey everybody, welcome back. This time I'm going to be working on a toy theater, also called a model theater or a puppet theater. So this thing dates back just a little before the 18th century and was really popularized back then for being able to recreate some of the famous plays at home. So for a lot of kids and even adults, this was a really popular medium for entertainment. And it did die off for a little while, but these days it's actually starting to come back. Okay, so this is going to be part one of a two-part series. This time I'm going to be focusing specifically on the stage itself, and then in the second video I'll be focusing on basically the backstage or the extension of the stage, along with rafters and backgrounds. The one thing about this video that I'm doing that's different from the others is that this one is actually dedicated to really more the teacher and the students building these projects in school or for homework assignments. So I've also included a 13-page document that's going to detail the step-by-step instructions on how to build this, as well as give some possible alternatives to construction materials as to where to find them, and basically different parts and pieces to minimize the cost overall, as well as a bunch of suggestions for teachers to be able to find different ways to create a lesson plan for everything from the geometry of putting the blueprint to foam core, to the construction itself, to even the decoration, and all the way up to stage crafting and storytelling. So this is going to be a relatively easy cutout. I'm gonna do this board first, and then this is going to be relatively easy to figure out. So I'm going to do this one because this has the curves and whatnot on it. Alright, so we're going to be looking at 5 inches. So this is actually pretty easy for the most part. You're going to line up the edge here. This way, it's always going to be straight. So because we're measuring out, we need to make it this way. So we're going to go 5 inches. So 5 inches from here to this corner. So we're going to make that and make sure that this is lined up. Right, just a little line, nothing too heavy. So now from here we're going to go 14 inches. So go ahead and just extend that down. So I have 14 inches right here. Gonna make sure it's lined up with this edge. I'm gonna do 14 inches. Okay. And again, it doesn't really matter if you draw on this, write notes, doesn't make any difference, because you know the whole point is to either paint this or do something else with it. So this is just the basic construction. Alright, so now we have another 5 inches over here. So we take from that line 5 inches, make sure we're straight. And we go all the way down with that one. So basically this is one side of it, and this edge is the other side. Okay? So now we're going to turn it sideways, and then we're going to do 3 inches from the bottom. So let's do this, 3 inches. We're going to line it up with this line. So there's that line. And then we're going to do 8 inches from there. So we're going to take that line, 8 inches, make sure it's level, or make sure it's lined up with this line. And then we're going to do another line. And then we're going to do another 4 inches from there. So from here, I'll tell you what, and for this one, we will do we'll just extend it. Okay. So we'll do 4 inches lined up all the way down it. So now we have these 2 lines that we need to measure to line up. So all we have to do is just come down here and line up that and those 2 and double check the length there, line it all up. Now you can be as accurate, or it doesn't have to be 100%. You can fix a lot of this later on, and you can do a lot of things. So the only reason I'm not erasing every line, it's just that now I'm erasing all of the stuff that basically I'm not going to be cutting. All the little extra stuff where it extended. See how it extended past? I don't need this little part here. So we have this down here. I'm not worried about it too much, just enough to where I don't actually mistake it for anything important. Okay, so now one of the things that I will be doing is, so from here, up here is going to be part 2. So look at part 2 is going to be the lid. So we are going to go ahead and, I'm sorry. Part 2 is going to be the base right here. These instructions, I just realized that when I made all these, I need to put part numbers beside of them, so it makes it just a little bit easier to figure it all out. Okay, so we're going to be doing the base, which is number 2. The frame's number 1. Okay, so this is the one that actually has the curve to it. So what we are going to do is we're going to take and draw the box first, right? So we're going to draw our outside perimeter. So from the center point to one edge is 12 inches or 1 foot. So obviously doubling that up is going to be 2 feet, right? So 24 inches, and that is already the size of this. So we already know what the size of this is going to be from here all the way to here. So now we have to, from here up, we're going to have to go its full height from the circle to the bottom, which is going to be 4 3/4 of an inch. So we're going to take the square here, and we're going to say 4 3/4 of an inch, right? And so we're going to make sure that that's right and line it up. And now we're going to draw that one line. Okay, and then because this is the edge, we can draw that corner too. So we have a line come out and go from here. Let's see, can I pull this out any further? No, I can't. It figures. Okay, so now we have that. So what I need to do is now from right here we are going to go, and this doesn't really matter how you do it. The layout is just not something specific that you have to stick by all means. It's just going to help you save on foam core. So if you need to pick something else, it's not going to be a big deal. Alright, so from here we are going to come over 4 inches, and then we're going to go up 3 1/4. So So 3 1/4 is right here. So this is the top of that. And so then we're going to come over 4 inches from here. So I'm going to make sure I'm lined up. And I'm going to come over 4 inches and just draw a little marker, just a tiny little mark that's going to be where this is essentially right there, right? So now we got to go measure down from here. So I have this measurement from the base up to this point, which is 1 3/4. So I'm going to use the straight edge on this, on the side right here. All right. Let's see. Actually, it's the best way of doing that. I want to make sure that, I'll tell you what, we're going to do this. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to line this edge up, and then 0 is going to be right there. So I'm going to line it up with this edge, right? This edge right here. Okay, so now that we've lined that up, we have this. So 1 3/4 from here. 1 3/4. Now, when it comes to that, I usually put like a little plus sign, just so I know it's the point and not where I'm gonna draw from that line. So from here to here, now we take a smaller ruler, and so now we're gonna measure this point and that point, and then connect the two. So now we have the first part here. So now we're going to do the same thing for the other side. Okay, so now we are going to do the same thing over here. So this point is this point right here is 4 inches across from that side, and then it's going to be 3 1/4 up from here for this. So 3 1/4 inches up and 4 across. So let's do the up first. Take this line and measure it this way. Then we're going to go 3 1/4 up. 3 1/4. All right. And then we're going to take this, measure this line, make sure it's straight. I'm going to measure out 4 inches from here, right? Just creating a dot. And now, so from here, we have to come up. So an easy way of doing this, let's see, is taking, this is the reason it's important to have a nice long. So, I don't know if I can get this entirely in the shot. So you line up right here, so this way this comes all the way across. So you line that up, and you bring it up to this point that we've drawn. Line it up. And then go from here. And we already know, way over here, that it's guidelines right there. So we've already measured it over there. We don't need to measure it again over here. We can just use the points and this 90 degree to now figure out where we need to be. So from here, we'll line this up and make sure it's lined up. Draw that little reference point, and then since we've already made that mark there on the edge, now we'll just take this, connect those 2 points, and now we have our other side. Okay, so now the only other measurement that we need to do is the middle. So this is going to be from this edge 12, right? From either edge it's going to be 12 inches right there in the center, 1 foot. So all we have to do is just use the edge here, and then we'll just use the top line to create where 12 is going to go, and then we'll just use the bottom line as well, so we can create 2 marks. Okay, and then from those 2 marks we can take a small ruler and just connect those 2 points together. Now, we won't be folding this, but this is going to help us create the angle, or the arch. So you'll notice right here I have, the radius is 12 inches and 12 and 3/16 inch. Okay, 12 and 3/16 inch. So that means that from this corner, this curve, which means this point right here, from that top point, it is going to come down all the way down until it's this number, 12 and 3/16 inch, to find that 1 point. All right, so what we're going to do, 12 and 3/16 of an inch. Okay, we're going to take our ruler, and then we are going to measure from the tip right here. Use this line as the 90 degree angle to make sure it's level. Okay. And now we are going to go from here, 12 and 3/16. So we have 12, 1, 2, 3. We have 3/16. So we're going to do a okay, so because I'm kind of off angle so I can get the camera to record, I was a little off on my angle, and so I had to go back, and it originally was right here, and I had to go back and make sure it was right here. So always, measure twice, cut once. Okay, so measure 3 times if you have to. Alrighty, so this is actually quite a large angle to have to do, and most compasses can't do that. So most people don't have anything that's that large to be able to do this kind of an angle. So we're going to do a little quick workaround. So let me get kind of a quick way of doing this. You can get a piece of string, or you can get, in this case, just have a power cable. So the idea is to take from this point and from this point, and you're going to draw a straight line. So now, it's not 100% accurate. You know, it's not going to be super perfect. But the idea is that it'll give you the angle that you need to be able to get it done. The trick is you got to keep it tight, right? So I'm obviously not taping this down. I'm just kind of holding it with, just trying to make sure that it's there. And then I'm going to hold this down. First off, I'm not going to draw yet. I just want to, see what I'm doing? I'm holding this and then just measuring this. I just want to make sure that it's going to match this point to this point to this point. Now I'm just going to draw. It was a little off, but you see, it's pretty much taken care of. So you can see it in there if I can get it in frame correctly. So it was just a tiny bit off there, and it's only a tad off there. Not really a big deal. And say, all right. So we have this check and this check. So now we need number 10. So 10 is actually just it's just going to be this piece, but just at the wing, right? So it's only going to be like this. That's actually going to be part number 10. So what we want to do is we just want to draw the square shape. And why is that? Because we'll take this measurement, so we don't have to try to recreate it twice by hand. We'll just take this one once we cut it out and make sure we cut out that angle, and then there we go, right? So there's no point in repeating the steps if we don't have to. So, okay, this side is empty, so I'm going to use this side to create part 10 here. So part 10 is going to be the stage, right? So number 10. And so, let's say, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create the square, right? So from here, we want the round to be out here, right? So we want the round part here, the flat part here. So we're going to go 1 inch and then 7 inches. So this is the top point here. So we're going to go measure 1 inch. So just with a straight ruler from this edge, we're going to measure out 1 inch. Just need to make it one little mark. That's it, just to where it goes. And so now we need to go 7 inches. So from here, go 7 inches right there, and then that's going to be right here. All right, so now that we have this, we know that this point is going to be another 7 inches, and then from the top, or from the very far edge, it's going to be another 1 inch, right? So, and the reason that you don't, it's to save, you know, because if you had numbers and measurements all over the place, you could really easily get confused as to where everything is. This is why I shaded in the parts that you're actually going to be using. In a regular blueprint, you would not actually see these, it would just be the lines. So it's important in blueprints to only do the one section if it's going to be mirrored. If technically it's supposed to be the rule of thumb that if it's not measured, it's the same as over here. Sometimes people just accidentally leave it off. But so in this case, it's the mirror. It's always the mirror, which is why I didn't put the dimensions in for each one. So let's say 7 for this one, so another 7 inches. Another 7 inches. Alright, and then we have that 1 inch. Alright, so we just have to do another 1 inch. These are just single points, right? So, you know, you don't want to measure it this way, but you don't have to be 100% exact on the line. You can be a little off and still be okay. Let's say you're just making the 1 point. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the 90 degree to do this. Now, since we're so close to this edge, we want the length of this to be our guide. So we're going to line it up with this line. Right. Line that up. This is going to be at that point, right? So now that we have that, so there's that. So same thing for this 7 inch right here. Double check all the lines before you do anything. Okay, there's that one. So now, since this is so close to this edge, I'm going to flip it around. So now I have all the line right here as the guide. So I'm going to line it up. Alright. Just double check. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing for this last point. Okay. So right now, from here, from this edge down is one piece, and this is what's left over. So now we know that we have 1 point to draw here, okay, on this one, and that is going to be right from this point to here. We want to make sure that we draw this angle, and the reason is that when we use this as the template, we'll use those 2 points from right here and right here. So this point and that point as a means to cut the angle, right? So hopefully that makes sense. So now we're going to take 1 3/4 from the bottom and measure up. So from this line over. So what I am going to do is, this is the reason we have a nice long 90 degree angle. So from here, I'm going to line up with here, line up with this line, right? Because that's going to be my 0 point. And then I'm going to measure 1 3/4. 1 3/4 from right there. Okay. So now I'm going to turn it around so I have more space, right? Turn it around. I'm going to line up this point with this edge. Line that up. And then I'm going to draw a little marker on the edge. And then a little marker. Right, again, because this is not a whole line. I just need to draw the point. Because this. So I have that point and I have this point. So remember, this is the edge. This is the right side. So I have 1 inch from here in is this point, the bottom point. And then I have up here to being this point. Boom. So all I gotta do is just connect these two together. And there's that line. So now I'm gonna go back and just very lightly erase. See, it's not important to get all that there. And this is not necessary at all. we technically could have just not even bothered with that line. I'm going to leave this one here because it's the center line. All right, so now we'll just draw this line. All right, there we go. And then we'll get rid of this line. Okay. So when the circle comes along, we'll literally be doing the same circle from right here. Okay. So we're going to leave this be because once we cut this out, we use this as this piece as the template. So now we have, based on the layout, we have this little space here, which is going to be 2 of the number 6s. Perhaps I should probably be a little bit more specific in regards to this being, you know, like A, B, C or something like that, because these things are a little too small, but obviously shorter. So the medium and the large are going to be in this piece, just because you can, you know, see the size difference. So from right here, we know that all of them are 2 5/8 wide. So now, from looking at this, they're obviously different lengths right here, right? So this is going to be from here to here is 2 5/8, and then from here to here is 2 5/8. Okay, so we're going to take that first measurement of 2 5/8. Let's take a small ruler. 2 5/8. 1, 2, and then 2, 4, 5/8. And then we're going to do it again. 1, 2, and then 2, 4, 5/8. Okay, let's say we're just using it as a marker there. So now, instead of taking this really big clunky square, actually, you know what? Let's just use it because it's right here. I was going to say if we had a smaller one, but I don't have a smaller one. So we're just going to use what we have here. Line it up with this edge and come down. Over here, do the same thing. Line it up. Make sure this is there. And then all the way down, right? All the way down both. So now, the difference here is that, see, this is the smallest one, second and large. So one of them is 4 inches, and another one is 3.5. Okay, so this is this way. So just take the regular ruler and four inches is the whole part, right? So now we'll just take the 3.5. And go there. So now we have, since we have this, take the straight edge, line it up with this edge, and then we'll make our mark on that one. Right, so now it's a little off. These are just supports, not that big of a deal. If they're a little off, doesn't make any difference. Okay, so we have a little bit of scrap left over on this, right? You can see there's going to be leftover part here from where the round is going to be, because it's going to go like about right up in here. Doesn't matter. We're going to leave this alone and cut this whole piece out by itself. So you can see it in there. We're going to cut this whole piece out by itself. So now from down here, the only scrap we really have is right here and right here. So I put X's on these. And the reason I do that is I know that when it comes down to it, when I cut these pieces out, it is only going to be these that I'll be able to throw away and toss to the side. Otherwise, I won't know if it's actually going to be a part or not. So now, same thing for this cutout here in the center. Just going to make some X's on it because this is our stage area that we're going to cut out. All right, so with that being said, we actually have one board already done. All right, so this is this, this big piece here is going to be the frame. This is the base. This is the stage. And these are stage supports. Don't think I'm going to say SS. Let's do stage S. Let's say C and stage SB, because it's the same, and the A would be the smallest one. Okay, so I'm going to cut this common line straight down. So I'm going to start with just a little and cut. This Elmer's is actually a very good board, so it's a little thicker than most as far as the paper is concerned. But okay, so that's the first pass. I'm keeping my hand over here away from the cut line. I don't want that to happen. I'm just using this so it doesn't slip. So I'm going to cut into that again to make sure I'm starting to cut the foam now as opposed to the paper. I'm still going to go kind of slow because you can see where you can very easily get off track. Alright, and then you can, alright, and then so, now a lot of people will flip it over and cut from there. I don't, because ultimately it will, I have a potential for cutting it a little off square from there. So what I do is I just get my knife, make sure it's in there, and then I square it up. So let me get a little cutting pad here, so this way I don't tear up the. A bit more firm, but now we have that piece. We'll move this off to the side. Okay, so now we have this line, which is the common line here. So I'm going to use this. Very carefully. Okay, and then we have this piece, just very lightly. Okay, and now this. Now, see the X's, we can toss that off to the side, we don't need that. So X's here, so we can get rid of this too. Okay. Alright, so now we have those. So now we have the stage here, right? So we know that there's no curve on this yet, this way. So that's okay, but we know that these are gotta go. So little burr there does not matter. It's okay. So I'm gonna line this up. Okay. Then I'm going to, I think my razor blade might be a little dull. Alright, but that's actually not a bad cut, right? If it were really burred the foam, if it was catching and pulling, then you need to replace the blade. But I think it's okay. So this is all we're going to do for this piece right here. So now we have sometimes it's just one corner that's just not wanting to, it doesn't have a perfectly smooth cut line, so alright. And then because this is so large, this is good scrap we can use for something else down the road. So now that I have this part, we have all of the stuff cut out for the first board. So they're the pieces for that. Now what we have to do is do the second one. I'm not going to do that on camera. When I come back, we will actually start putting everything together. When we first start this, what we're going to end up doing is the 3 inches that we have here is going to be on the bottom, and the top is going to be up here. So you don't really need it, but some painter's tape might actually kind of help things along, so you can sort of do a little preliminary taping of these things, and gives you a little bit more handle, making sure it's all kind of put together so you can glue it in. So I say it's not really 100% necessary, but I find it easier. So if you have another person to help you out, then do that, but otherwise grab some tape. So in the instructions here, I'm going to go to, let's see, which page is it? Page 6. So on camera, let me go ahead and, because we never really did this. This is the piece that is actually going to be the stage, right? So, and then here's the bottom piece. So what we're going to do is take a pencil, and then I'm just going to, this is the back of the stage. This is supposed to be the angle on the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line this up. Let's say I have center lines here, so this way I can match the stuff up. So I'm just going to line it in the bottom and then line it to the center. Not the sides, but the center makes it easier. And then I'm going to boom, do that little trace, and now I have a round angle that will match the bottom. That way I don't have to worry about it. So I'm just gonna make a couple pieces here. Alright. So in this case, it's actually gonna butt up against it this way. It's not gonna go on top, but it's gonna go side to side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some tape. Leave a little bit overhanging, right? So I say this is a little bit easier when you have multiple people, but you can still do this pretty quickly by yourself. So because of this, so now I am going to just sort of line this up on the back, and then make sure it's flush, and then throw some tape on there. And then I come back and I'll fix the tape if I need to, like where it tapes where it shouldn't or something. Alright. Alright, so that lined up pretty nicely. And there's that. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to take the left side and the right side. So now there's another thing that I didn't put on all of the instructions, but you'll notice that I have an angle on some of these because they're going to go up against this piece where the opening is at the stage. It's not going to fit 100%, so it's got to actually be at an angle. So I am going to take the box cutter again, and this cut is actually easier with the box cutter than it would be with a rather hobby knife. So the smallest piece, you know, the thinnest side, is actually what's going to be the angle. So I wrote left and right on these things, so I know that this is going to be the side like this, right? So I know that this is the side, and this is going to be the side. So I flip it over, and on that small side, I'm going to cut an angle. Now, this is typically going to take a little bit of time to get used to. I'm a little quick with it, and it's not perfect, right? It does not have to be perfect. Again, this is the frame. Once you put all this stuff together, it's actually going to fit relatively snugly together. So you don't have to worry about it too much. So now, here's the left one. Again, I'm on the inside of it, wrote on the outside technically, and then the small piece is going to be the angle. So, I try to do like a 45-degree angle. It doesn't matter. Again, it's going to go up there, and hot glue is going to fill in the gap. So, not a big deal. Okay, so now I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to take the left side. Alright, so it is going to fit on top, not on the side, but on top. And there's going to be a little bit of a gap, right? There's going to be a 3/16 gap because the lid is going to go on top of this, right? So we want to have this sitting on top of the stage. So now we're just kind of lining it up, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that it's okay first before we start anywhere. So now you can do this a couple different ways. You can tape it all in and get ready to go, and then or you could tape one side and hot glue it first. So what I am going to do, I think in the instructions I listed it as taping the large side to this, but I might actually do this inner side here, so this way I can actually open this up and hot glue it. So I think I might do that. So give me a chance here, you'll see what I'm talking about. Alright, so on the front, I'm going to add a few pieces of tape. You can get away with 2, but this stuff peels off pretty easy. It's not a big deal. Alright, so what's going to happen here is I'm just going to line this up on the edge here. Okay, this is going to fit there. So now that I have that there, I just want to make sure that I am good to go. So I'm going to try to line this up and make sure it's square. Okay, alright, I think that's going to work. Okay, so now I am going to swing this open. Now that the hot glue is heated up, I am going to put a nice big clump of hot glue on that 45-degree angle. Okay. And then I'm going to make that happen. Let me also take some tape, put that there, put that there, put this up, and I'm going to tape this to the back, onto the frame itself. This way I'll have a little bit of stability. So there will be a difference here in regards to how this might line up depending on how you cut it. But this is why this is here. It's not a big deal right now. But if you want to, you can go ahead and put this down. Just put one piece here, and then move it down until it lines up with this. So now we have this whole thing nice and set up. And say, you know, it's not hot glued right now. That's okay, because it's actually already standing on its own. So now we're going to do the same thing to this piece. On the outside, I'll take a few pieces of tape, which I don't think they're going to fit in the window there, so we'll just put 2 on this. And then let's just put 2 on the outside here, because we know that we're going to attach this as well. Just kind of kill 2 birds, 1 stone. Alright. So, same thing. We're going to set it here and line up this edge with this piece here. So, okay. Make sure that that's nice and straight. Alright, I'm going to take hot glue. And then I'm going to use this. Sit that down, and then put that little piece on there. So if you notice, it doesn't really line up right now, but as soon as we move that back a little bit, it's gonna match up. Okay. And now we already have, and it stands on its own. So it actually doesn't take very long to get moving. Okay. Okay. And okay, there we are. So now I'm going to take the lid, as it were, and I'm going to put that on. Okay, so with the lid, it's going to go on top of this, and then against this. Now, I'm a little off on some of this. I think I glued this up a little too high, so it's not going to sit 100%. Let's see. Let's see if there's anything I can do to save it. Kind of trying to rush through this a little bit because it doesn't require, the hot glue is pretty solid in that. So I'm trying to rush through it because it doesn't take very long to make this, but my first prototype, I spent a lot of time making sure that all the angles were right and all the measurements were right. So if you go, excuse me, if you go a little slower than I'm going right now, then you'll be able to get through it pretty easily. And you won't have any little mistakes on the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and just be good with where this is, and then I am going to glue right here, and then I'm going to glue this edge right here, and then I am going to on the side. And then very quickly, I'm going to set that down before it all solidifies. Okay. And that will be that. Okay. So I will actually point out one of my own little mistakes here. Not my mistake in the actual model itself, but in a mistake in me putting this assembly together. So as I say, I didn't line these up 100% on the base because I didn't cut them maybe a little bit. I cut them just a little bit inaccurately. I was rushing, which is not a good idea when you have a blade and everything else. But in the process, I don't know if you noticed this, but it's a little higher than what it's supposed to be. So it's still glued to this frame, but only by a little bit. So ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's fine. Because that's there, just an added reinforcement, I'm going to go ahead and fill in a little bit of that big gap with glue. And now it's going to dry on its own, and it's going to fill in that gap. I don't have to do anything to it. The glue's too hot to mess with by hand. I don't have to worry about it. So I got a little gap here where it didn't touch. I hate hot glue, really. I try to do my best to not use this stuff, but it is really handy because I inevitably burn myself all the time. I think hot glue, I will burn myself at least 4 or 5 times in a project before I am done with it when I'm using hot glue. For instance, I don't know if you just noticed my finger hit the edge here and drag up some glue because I thought it had dried already, but it didn't, and it was very hot. But because the camera was recording, I tried to act like I didn't feel it. If you look closely enough, you probably see it in my face. All right. So we're good to go here. I'm going to go ahead and, before I put the supports in for the stage, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue this little area together. It doesn't have to be a lot. It's just to solidify it. Okay. If that'll help. Okay, so now it's time to work on supports. So I have the stage supports, 2 sets of the same size blocks. Then I have the upper top supports that have the little angle on them. So now, they don't have to be perfect. They're not meant to actually be 100% wedged against the thing, and you'll see it in the diagram. So what this is going to do is that we are going to take the big pieces. Let's see. So those are the big pieces. These are the mediums, and these are the smalls. So the small ones are going to go against the smallest section of the circle, and then the larger ones are going to be towards the center, right? The most important thing to keep in mind is that when you're on the edge of this, right, you want to keep it about 3/16, basically the width of this foam, away from the edge. So the easiest way to do that is to take, one of these, right? So we're just going to glue a nice little piece here on the bottom. Okay. And then we're just going to use one of these and put it here on the edge, on the top of it, as sort of just a guide. And then we're just going to push it down. Now, you don't have to be super accurate about that, right? We just want to kind of keep it the width of this, so that way when the stage cover goes on it, it kind of fits between the stage and the base. Okay, so it's the same thing. We'll take the extra long one that we have here. And I don't even care about really, I'm just going to see this size and just kind of eyeball it. It's not important. If you notice, I'm also not too worried about where it is. This is just fill in the gap and make sure the stage with any kind of weight doesn't actually bend in. Probably doesn't need as much support, but I want it to be safer than sorry about the whole thing. Okay. Take the smallest one. So keep in mind to make sure that you're putting these things the right way, because they're different sizes. So we don't want we don't want one hanging up, you know, too far. So in this case, we got to make sure we don't glue it down because it's going to be kind of useless if it's too short. So here we are. And same thing, I'm going to put this one closer to the edge, so this way it has something to really seat itself with. Okay, so we're just going to do that. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Just a little bit away, making sure that it's roughly about the same. And then this bottom piece here, you can put a little bit of glue, you can put a lot of glue, doesn't really matter too much because it's all going to be hidden. Okay, there's that. Now, so these are going to go with the angle sloping. I don't know if you can see this from my shirt, right? The angle that slopes, this is 90, it's going to slope down. Okay, so I think I made these too big. All right, so now we're going to take these wedges right here. So I'm going to lay these down, and they're going to fit right up against the wall. So now there's going to be a little bit of a gap, at least most likely there's going to be a little bit of a gap depending on how good your cut is. For me, my cut end's not always the best, so it should be right up against the edge or at least close to it. Doesn't really matter. So they don't really matter where they go. Just sort of hot glue them on both those points there, and then glue them up on the top and that. And then it should be good to go. It doesn't matter if they're 100% straight, doesn't really make any difference because again these are going to be completely covered, so you're not going to see them at all. Burnt myself again there. There's hot glue somewhere, I'm going to find it. I guess you limit, I have mine set to high, but you could probably just do a cold one, cold glue gun, and they'll probably be a lot better than this one as far as burning yourself, because I'm a little excessive with the glue here and I shouldn't be. Because I keep burning myself. Alright, so now that that's there, set this off on the side a little bit so it can cool down. So for the top piece, this piece right here, the short piece is going to have to be cut at an angle as well. Okay, so alright, so and then we're going to get, where's my tape? I'm going to get a couple pieces of tape so we can make sure this gets on there straight. Just a few, not a big deal. Okay, So am I doing this in order? Let me just double check. Am I doing this in order? Yes, okay, good. I'm still in order from the instructions. Alright, so what this is going to do, it's going to go right on top, and then it's going to fold in. Because it's squeezing at this corner, let's go ahead and this whole side, we're going to just go ahead and cut an angle at it. So it'll fit just a little bit better. Alright. Alright, so that way we have a nice little bevel there. And let's see, will that help? Okay, that definitely made this fit even better, these sides. It's still a little short. I'm not quite sure why, but it's okay. So let's go ahead and tape what we can. So I'm gonna say, can you see that from right there? Like a little bit of a gap there. Okay, so I'm gonna do just like everything. I'm gonna fold that out, and I'm gonna glue what I can down. And glue on the supports. Doesn't have to be 100%. And I'll glue right there too, because I know that that's going to fit close to the top there. So I can do a couple different things. I can chop these off and just kind of clean them up. I can run hot glue down them and fill it in completely. I can do a combination, so I can do hot glue and go from here. Or I can, let's just say if I had, let's just assume this is cardstock. I can just get some regular Elmer's glue, some glue sticks, and then I can put that over it like this, right? So I've completely, you know, I've completely filled it in, and this could be textured paper, it could look like wood, you know, whatever you want to do. And now you've very simply covered up the seams and actually filled in the gap there, and it's nice and smooth, and it gave it decoration as well. So as I say, for this gap, it's the same way. You know, when you fold it down and do that, the gap's gone, right? So that's what I'm saying. This is just the frame, the skeleton of the project. It's not as important as making sure all of this is there. You may need to cut some parts away. You may need to do whatever. I wanted to make sure that this was as easy as you could to get to the point where it was a stage and you can kind of do whatever you wanted to with it. And forgive me for not looking in the camera. I'm looking at a monitor above to make sure I'm in frame. So, okay, so now let's do the stage, okay? So we're going to make sure that the stage fits on here first. Okay, so as I say, it's just going to sit right there. And if everything is lucky, it's going to be nice and smooth with its back. If it's not, still not a problem. Alright, so in this case, mine actually does fit. It's a little off in some areas, but not a big deal. It's mostly because of my cut when I did this line. It's not 100% straight. So I'm just going to glue in the supports on the top. And with this, it's going to be this back edge. And the glue doesn't matter so much. You can always trim this stuff up later. Not a big deal. You just gotta run. You gotta be a little quick and make sure that you can get to it before it all dries up. All right, so I'm gonna kind of pinch this from both sides just to make sure that it's as level as I can get it and it's pushed back. I'm just gonna kind of hold on to it a little bit for just until the hot glue sets. So now we have just this piece that's going to go right on there. So I'm going to kind of get an eyeball as to where it's supposed to be. But as I say, it doesn't matter so much. Okay, so, and if you wanted to, when you're designing this, you could have it stick out further, right? You could have it inset more, so there's like a ridge in between it. You can make the stage a little bit wider. Whatever you want to do. Let's say, like to make it sort of your own personal situation there. There's a lot of surface area to glue in a short amount of time, so the stuff, the hot glue doesn't set on you. Actually, the line seems to go a little faster for me, mainly because I have that large glue stick. Okay, so now we are just going to put that down, slide it over a little bit until we know it fits. All right, and then we can shape it and squeeze from here. So that, let's say, the assembly, it's very stable. Okay, right? It's not going to go anywhere. So you can put, let's just say my little Harry Potter things. So imagine you can put that there, and now you have your whole, see with the characters there? You have your entire sort of setup that you can do and create your own plays. Take some pictures. This is this cutout right here is the 16:9 ratio, which is basically your phone. Widescreen, so just turn it sideways, set it up on a tripod or whatever, and you can take pictures, and then you can create your own little images from there. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I know it's a little convoluted right now as I'm trying to rush through this, but I think that this is pretty much what you need to be able to get your own toy theater built and running. And it's very, I keep hitting it, it's very sturdy. I meant for this to be quite hefty and for you to be able to do a lot of interesting things with it. So as I say, please let me know if something is wrong in the template. Please let me know if, obviously if you enjoyed it and things like that. Please like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff, and I will see you next time.